The world is saved. The living room's dark, save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, George.
Am I high right now? I feel like I'm high right now, or at least I should be high to get away with the game that we're playing. How are you doing, Lions?
I'm good, and that's actually not as far off from the official plot description of ClayFighter as you might think. So here's the thing. We're known for our deep and hilarious research bit.
Oh, yes.
But I actually had to look up the plot for ClayFighter because the game doesn't tell you what it is.
I think the game tells you a little bit because I did no legwork on it, and what I have is they all want to be the king or the leader of the circus.
King of the circus, yes. So okay, but why
Clay.
are they? Yes, why do they exist?
Yeah. Okay. So that literally, that's one of my notes. It's just like, what? Like, why Clay? And as the game goes on, the question they only mount because I'm pretty sure aliens are involved. Like, I'm confident that aliens are involved.
Kind of, yes.
Yay!
Yeah. So here, and granted, this is from Wikipedia, which I'm assuming they just pulled directly out of the manual, but it's a meteor made entirely out of clay crash lands on the grounds of a humble American circus.
Okay.
The goo from the interstellar object contaminates all of the circus attractions, transforming them into bizarre caricatures of their former selves with new superpowers.
Huh. Okay, I mean, that's,
and apparently the first thing they decide to do is murder each other.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you have to have a leader, but no, this is like one of those. It's kind of like the mirror world version of like a good story that, like, as they answer mystery plot questions, they raise more questions.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, but like it's like that, but awful because I have so many follow-up questions, and it's like, wait, so when the clay consumed everything, did it like take on its facade like pod people, or did the people just get superpowers and somewhat disfigured and kind of go insane?
I'm gonna go with that second one because caricatures of their former selves. So like there was a like really flexible guy and he became the Taffy, and there was like the Elvis impersonator and he became like a creepy Elvis impersonator.
Blue suede goo.
Yes. Yes, they do all have kind of silly names. I think my favorite though, the ghost. I mean, he's a ghost. Like, yeah. He has no feet, right? That thing is a ghost.
Ichabod Clay.
Ichabod Clay.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Really.
No, it was like it was like one long dad joke. And right before we lead into visuals, I actually, and because it speaks to like the undead and like the weirdness of this whole game, but I actually saw a thing online about a summoning ritual on how to summon a dad. Is what you do is you lay power tools in a circle and then take a sandal and put a sock in it and put that in the center. And then you stand around it chanting, "Hi, hungry, I'm dad. Hi, hungry, I'm dad." And then you touch the thermostat and then it summons a dad. So visuals.
Please. No, wait, you just stop. Please tell me you just made that up on the spot. And you were like, how many of these can I string together at once?
Oh God, I wish I was that clever, but alas, no. I saw this online and just and just I was like that would do it. And then actually it spawned a very interesting conversation between myself and Megan of being like, well, that wouldn't be too bad because then like if you ever wanted to go visit lions, he could just do the summoning ritual and then summon you. I was like, well, I think it depends on whether it was invocation or evocation, because like if I have the choice of going, and so we actually had a long.
Well, also, and is this a dad summoning circle or like a teleporter? Because like, can I just summon any dad? Like, if I have one of your sandals and one of your socks, is that how I summon you specifically? Do I have to touch your thermostat? Like, how does this work?
No, these are all good questions, and then that would actually completely change like the reason to become a father. Is not because like not because you really want to have kids and like raise something good in this world. Like it's like airfare is really garbage, and like I just want to be able to teleport.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd send you a sandal and a sock if it would just teleport me to your house.
Yeah, right. It's not too bad, you know.
So visuals, this game has some.
So it would seem. Okay, so first off, right off the top, the Interplay logo, I just thought was because what was it? It's mode 7, right? Like you're
the stretchy 3D thing.
That was awful, man. I mean, just it was the harbinger of things to come. I really thought, to be fair to the game, it did set the tone of the awfulness of the rest of the game. So
yeah, I mean, they don't try and hide from you what you're getting into, which I genuinely appreciate. Like, that's not snark. Like, this entire thing, top to bottom, is a ridiculous parody of serious fighting games, and the amount of ridiculousness is equal to the amount of like over the top mega violence in like a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter.
Yes.
And they give you no time to even second guess what you have just gotten into. You turn it on and it's like stretchy Interplay logo, King of the Circus, giant snowman. Like, you have no time to think about it.
Nope, no time to process. You're just in it. And yes, I mean literally like right off the top, you know, like and so I hit start to, you know, like pause it so I could write a note on that. And then of course that did nothing because you're not in the game yet. And then actually that does remind me later on, we'll have to get to the fact that like you can't pause the game at all. Like that was, or at least I couldn't.
That we may need to hook you up with a new controller, brother, because you could definitely pause the game.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that might have been on me. Because like there were a couple yeah, anyways. But yeah, so that visual right off the top was seared into my eyes. Yeah, no, aside from that, I've got like all kinds of like weird, like bizarre, like just bizarre. It's all bizarre. Like there are so many visuals because because normally I've said a number of times on the show that it's easier to get away with like lower resolution when you're rendering things that are outside of like humanoid or human, you know, like so like even Mario, even though he's like humanoid, like he's not human, so you know you give him the bigger eyes and all this sort of stuff. This game had that affordance, and yet there were times when I had no idea what exactly it was I was looking at.
And I think I can actually explain this. So this is from that time in the early 90s. I think this came out in like 93. This is from that time in the early 90s when they were just really starting to experiment with 3D graphics on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, because they were like, well, it's like kind of 3D. It's like not really 3D, but it sort of looks 3D. But it's impossible to apply textures to anything. So let's make everything shiny metal. Let's make everything out of, you know, solid color. Let's make everything out of clay, because it all sort of looks like it's made out of clay anyway, right? So it you know, the snowman, the taffy man, like the big fat Helga, you know, she's got the big round dress over her like operatic costume. Like all those things are a little bit more forgiving when they have like no texture to speak of. What we can't forgive, and what these early 3D graphics all suffer from, is lighting artifacts, because nothing is ever lit quite right. And it casts everything into these bizarre angles, especially when there's a lot of fast movement, which is a fighting game. So there's a lot of fast movement, and everything just looks off. Like, it's just a little uncanny, right? Where you're just like, why do they seem to not only not be in the same plane of existence as their opponent, or the two of them in the same plane of existence as the background, but like their own head isn't in the same plane of existence as their feet, depending on the position of their body. Like, it's just very jarring, and it's something all of these early 3D graphics kind of suffered from.
And that is super helpful, because I had because like you said, like I just there were some things I just couldn't place at all. there were also some choices that they made with visuals where they were just inexplicably and stupidly bad. Like, and so for one of the ones that literally I stopped and I wrote this note down, and then later on I was able to figure it out, which was one of the fighters I picked up was Tiny. I played as him for a little bit.
Who is horrifying.
Yeah, he is. He is what everybody who, like, if you had Play-Doh, right, and you were trying to do, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, right? Well, the T-1000's easy, right? But when you try to mold Arnold Schwarzenegger out of Play-Doh, that's what Tiny looks like. It looks like an 8-year-old's attempt at that,
Yep.
So Tiny, I was playing with him, so I square up with my mirror match, right? So it's like Tiny versus Tiny, and I'm like, okay, fine. But other Tiny is in like the gold suit, and I'm in the red suit, right?
Yeah.
So apparently they just literally have palette 1 and palette 2, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because Tiny's tongue is the same color as his Speedo, and when and when he's got on the yellow Speedo, his tongue is yellow. And I had no idea what I was looking at when I knocked him unconscious, because he's got this something hanging out of his mouth. And I was like, oh, sweet dear God, is that like his clay brain? Like, what is that? And it wasn't until I got laid out that I was just kind of like, oh, it's his tongue, which still doesn't look good. Like, even when I knew it was his tongue, I'm like, that's still garbage animation. But at least it's now my brain can actually recognize it as something. But yeah, just stuff like that where it's like, come on, guys, come on. I mean, I know that cocaine's not going to do itself, but give it like 10 minutes, which is coincidentally less time than it took us to get to the cocaine reference in this episode.
No, well done. There are a series of weird visual design choices. Like, the character select screen has all of the characters like walk on. So like, it starts as Bad Mr. Frosty, he like walks on, and then if you move to the next character, he walks off, and that character then walks on, and so on. Kind of like a character select screen. It's not novel, but the thing that I found weird about it is that screen either has unique models for all the characters, which seems like an odd choice, or they scaled them at like an uneven amount, because they look worse on that screen than at any other time. And that confused me, because I was like, did they really make dedicated graphics just for this screen that are terrible? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, they're probably like vector scaled. So what you're seeing is the full character model, but at like 0.75. And anyone who has ever even considered pixel art for half a second will tell you that pixels don't work that way. And scaling them in uneven number, and anything besides like whole, like half or double or triple or whatever, does not work. It can't. It literally can't, because you have to lose pixels somewhere. You can't just have half of a pixel or a third of a pixel. So my thinking is they just like squashed them to make them fit above the description of the character and their like backstory, if you can call it that. But why? Like, why not just show their face like every other fighting game ever made? Why not make their character model take up more of the screen so you can show them at full resolution? Like, why the squashed model? Like, it's so hideous. And you cannot play the game without going through the character select screen. So it's not like everyone won't see this.
And again, like I said, just so many bizarre choices where you're like, there are so many. I mean, I can think like an easy workaround would be just, like you said, like have the character appear full screen and then just put the text on top, like where the life bar would be. I mean, you've already got, like on the characters, if you want the bio there on the character select screen, you don't need a life bar or a timer or any of that sort of stuff. There's plenty of room. Yeah, no, it's just inexplicable stuff like that. The only thing I can think of is that literally they're trying to tell you, like, look, man, just brace up. Like every single thing is bracing you for how little attention they put into this game. Like one of the other ones, and again, this is just it's just sloppy, which was so so there's the overworld select screen, kind of like the stage select, right? Which isn't
like when it like moves between, because you don't choose.
right, exactly. So it's not a stage select so much as it is a hey, heads up, here's what you're getting into.
Yeah, it's like if you remember in like the older Street Fighter games, like you see the map of the world and the plane like flies around, but you
Yeah.
don't pick.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly like that, right? So it's like, oh, this is the stage you're getting into, which is in and of itself fine, except for the fact that there were like 4 repeats, but we'll get into that later. That was so frustrating. But anyways, no, is so when you defeat one of them, you blow up their area, and that seems legit, sure. But so their place disappears.
I will be king of the ashes.
What is it that Darkseid says to Batman? Like what is the point of no? Batman says it to Darkseid. What is the point of being a ruler if there's no one left to rule?
Yes, exactly. What is the point of being king of the circus if there is no circus left to circus?
So anyways, so as you blow them up, you know, and it leaves behind the shadow. Like,
oh my god, does it?
It does. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So like
so is it like a nuclear blast where like you burn the shadow of the building into the ground?
I'm just picturing like Homer when he was like watching TV and it was like 15 years later and it shows the
old radiation king.
But yeah, no, I mean like so it's just the shadows aren't like stark, you know, but they exist. And so like it leaves this kind of like bizarre pockmark, but instead of literally coming up with just a pockmark graphic like a crater, which they literally use later in the game, right, to just put where you've defeated it, you know, they just left it. It just turns into green grass, which doesn't make any sense, with a shadow that doesn't make any sense, in the middle of a voided space, which doesn't make any sense, where like the earth continually slams into other earth to provide more spaces, which doesn't really make any sense. It's just sloppy.
Yeah, you know, I think my brain was really trying to not consider the combined descriptive details of the level progression, because in isolation I feel like, oh well, each one looks like a little place that's representative of the person you're gonna fight there, and there are a couple do-overs, but like, okay, whatever, like each one is like more or less representative, you know, it's like it's fine. But then they're like on this like chunk of land that's like floating in space, and it's like okay, well, why that? And then like instead of seeing the whole map, like two more I think chunks fly up.
I think it's 3 chunks total, because
so the first one is there, and then kaboom and kaboom.
I think that there's a final kaboom, which is
for N boss,
for 100% pure. Yes.
I do love I do love his pun. I think the best of like the game's puns, like N boss.
Oh,
he's the N boss.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I didn't pick that up actually. I was so like put out by the whole game at that point where I was just kind of like, I just want and actually just side note, like when I was fighting the N boss, you know, like I slugged through him and I was really, really focused, because like, I don't want to lose. I want to get through this because I want to just make sure that I'm not missing anything, because I swear to God, if this is like one of those things where somebody's like, oh, well, you had to wait until after the credits, and like I walked out on theater. So I did. I actually sat patiently and watched all of the credits roll through, and then watched the title screen come back, and I was like, and we're good. We're done. Thank you kindly.
So did you, I assume as usual, you played on easy? I played on easy.
Oh yeah. That's
so you only get the little descriptor text, I think, on normal and hard. But I mean, it's nothing. Like, this is another very odd visual choice that they made, where if you beat the game as, say, like Bad Mr. Frosty, and then if you do it on easy, it's just like, oh hey, credits, and like the game basically just stops.
Yeah.
And if you beat it on normal or hard, you don't really get that much more, because of like a couple of lines of text flies up onto the screen, and it says like what Bad Mr. Frosty or whoever does, like as king of the circus.
Yeah.
And then credits. Like
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm happy with my life choices.
But I'm just saying, like there's nothing to it. And like believe me, this is the lion's share of my notes is going to be in mechanics and random complaints. But like, there's just there is no game. Like this game is just a two-player experience because everything about the visuals and the audio, which we'll get to in a minute, and the controls and everything is just like don't play this game alone. Just play it with your friend. This game is not meant to be played alone.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely not, and I 100% agree. And the only other note what that I have was Mr. Frosty explodes. Like
Yeah.
he dies a way more violent death than everyone else because everybody else just seems to lose consciousness, you know?
Yeah, doesn't the blob like turn into a puddle or something?
I didn't die as the blob. And I did kill the blob, but I don't remember
I
what
don't
he
remember.
did.
I'm gonna here's one of those rare kimono moments. You know, like we have like our commitment to a minimum amount of playtime. I fell so short of that. Like I just couldn't do it, dude. Like I could not. I couldn't.
Well, if I remember correctly, to continue on to make sure is that the thing was we want to play for a minimum amount of time or beat the game, you know?
And yes, technically I did beat it in like 9 minutes.
Yeah. So I mean like I beat it and then double backed around and played for like another 5 minutes. And I was just like, I can't do this again, Sharon. Like
So I want to talk about the visuals from this one other angle because this I do not believe has actually happened to us yet, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts. I think we both agree that we do not like the visuals in this game.
Correct.
But one of the ways we always discuss visuals is like how well they serve gameplay, and like super good, like incredibly well. Like every character is completely unique. No two characters look even close to the same. There aren't enough stages, which is weird, but like each background is completely unique. There's also not equally enough music, but like there's several different pieces. But it like I always knew when I was hitting someone or when I had been hit. The game is fairly good about if like you do hit each other at the same time, like you just both take damage. Like I actually did a double knockout once.
Oh yeah.
Because like that's a thing they allow to happen. So the visual, if it's like, oh, we both hit each other at the same time, but only I took damage, like that would be annoying. So you just both take damage. Like when I was writing out my notes, I was like, I hate these graphics so much, and yet I can't actually say they're not accomplishing their job.
Yeah, no, that's actually a fair point. I didn't this time take any notes on like how the visual service gameplay, honestly, because if I had to figure out why I missed this is because there's just so little gameplay, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, like I would say that they service you're right. They do a good job servicing gameplay. I would say that they didn't do anything where I looked at it and I was like, this is something where, you know, like other fighting games, you know, don't do this, and this is someplace where they went above and beyond. They did do one thing, and this strays a bit into mechanics that I didn't really care for, which was like you said, like if you like punch, you can punch each other at the same time, right? And I like that. But what I don't like is that like if you jump up and kick, right, that animation holds, and if you get touched anywhere by that extended leg, it'll register as a hit, and that felt clunky to me.
Yeah, I can't say for sure. I feel like most fighting games would respond that way, but the characters in this are fairly large. So like if you're in a jumping, kicking animation, you are now somewhat untouchable because you're coming down in the kicking animation. They can't go over your leg to punch you in the face because you're coming from the top down. So like that. It's exploitable depending on like the body posture of the character.
And that was where I got dinged with it a lot. And like I said, like, and maybe this is a common thing in like fighting games I'm unfamiliar with because, you know, they're not really my bag. But particularly with Ichabod Clay, when he would kick, because his kick is just like a ghostly visage of like what was once his legs.
Ghost foot.
Yeah. So he kicks out with the entire sheet that is his leg, and when he comes down, like there were a couple of times when I like tried to hit him, but because of just the way he was angled on his way down, I could not register a hit before his leg would register a hit on my head, you know? And so it just like, it felt weird. Like it would be kind of like, if you jumped up into the air and then like came and kicked straight out, and I was like 5 feet underneath you. And so like, even then, if you landed on me, you'd land on me like weird, and you wouldn't, you wouldn't land on me and like register a hit as though you had just kicked me in the face. And I've just got my like fist just like right at testicle level, and then I throw it, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I kicked you, bro. I'd be like, no. So like stuff like that.
It's like point fighting and like kids taekwondo.
Yeah.
When like there's the one kid who lands like the amazing kick to the other kid's chest, and it's like, yes, but as he was falling down, his glove tapped you in the cheek. And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, yes, technically that is what happened, and it's like, point to falling down, kid, and it's like, no.
no to all of that. Yeah, no. But I would agree that as far as like how did they service gameplay, it was serviceable for all of the 15 minutes of gameplay that there was. Yes.
Yeah. But it's a weird thing, right? To be like, I hated these graphics, and they were absolutely admirable in their ability to accomplish their stated goal.
Yes, they were. Yeah, I would agree with that. At a bare minimum, they were serviceable. And I'm just trying to think real fast. And like I said, I can't really poke holes in it. But again, it's just kind of like, to me, somebody saying like, oh, can you review this restaurant? And it's like, well, kind of, in the sense that like they gave me a single bite of food, and that bite of food was good, but there was only the one. So
that was all there was. So I'm not overly excited for what you thought about the music and sound effects in this game, but we gotta talk about it.
Yeah, we do. So okay, actually no, I had two notes like I'm pretty happy with for our audio. One of them is that the opening music is and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm not 100% on it, but the opening music is ragtime, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it sounded like Mario.
Yes.
Like
which is also a ragtime piece, yes.
Right, which is similar. So like, it was similar in feel, and so like because I'm learning stuff too, so like I was just happy with it, because like when it queued up, I was like, why does this sound a little bit like Mario? Because they're both ragtime. And then like and so then I wrote it down, and I patted myself on the back, and I went and got some milk.
You're growing as a podcaster.
I went and got some ice cream to reward myself.
Every time I write down a good note, I go to Baskin Robbins and get myself a little drink.
So I was a little happy with that. And the one other note that I gotta just vent about a little bit. So Blue Suede Goo, his verbal like affectations, like
all those things, which he does on almost every technique. Every one, and he blocks like a little bitch, and like that means it takes forever to beat him. And here's it's like, you've got to stop. Like, and so then I get angry and careless. And then at one point I knocked him out, and then he knocked me out. And I was so angry, because that means I had to go a third round listening to this guy. It's verbal assault. It's not okay. It's not. This is something should be done. No, this is
somebody like
this is something I thought was unfortunate for whoever did sound design for the game, because the music is wholly forgettable, but in the moment, completely serviceable. Yep. Like each level has like level appropriate music. So like the stupid Blue Suede Goo has like Elvis-y kind of, rockabilly music. And there's like the kind of generic circus music for Clown Guy.
I believe his name is Clown Face, the Mickey Clown, the Clown Face.
See, that's why they couldn't fit his whole character model on the
Exactly.
screen.
Because originally had a shirt that said all of that, but then they just couldn't fit it all on.
That shirt looks terrible. Just give him suspenders. Um, but you know, like each level has like level music, which is nice.
Yeah.
And even if the songs aren't super memorable, it is nice to have something like on theme. But then the sound effects are either unforgettable or sorry, they are completely forgettable or incredibly annoying because like the one that stood out to me as being so frustrating is Helga.
Yep.
Her like range attack is the like shriek.
Yep.
Almost like a Sindel kind of like.
Yep.
Which I get it. She's supposed to be like a cartoonishly fat opera singer. I get it, but
Yeah.
like
Oh,
a
yeah.
hundred times around, and especially like if you're in midair and she does that so that you land on it and take damage. Then while you're in the air and she starts doing that, you're just like, damn it. And then you get hit.
no.
And, yeah, and then you get knocked back and you're just like, you learn not what to do when you hear that noise. Like it's not positive reinforcement, it's negative reinforcement where you just get more frustrated, you get more sloppy, and then you have to fight her a third round. And
Yeah, no, that one also was just so frustrating. And while we're just on a quick note on like just frustrating things that they would do, because I'm sure we'll circle back around to it again, but I don't want to forget the clown face, right?
yeah, Mickey
Yeah.
clown Mickey face.
Yeah, Mickey Clown, the clown, the face clown. He blocks like a chump. Like
Yeah. And actually this kind of harkens back to so I had some notes about like different characters' animations
Mhm.
because like the fact that every character is so unique is like a lot of that is summed up in their animations. And the more I was looking at my notes, I was just like, you know, I don't want to critique this. Like this game does not deserve this level of like fine detail critique. Like if they're not going to put in the effort, God damn it, I'm not going to put in the effort. But I do for Bonker, by the way, is his name.
Ah.
For whatever reason, his blocking animation stands out to me because of the look of utter terror
Yes.
on his face. Like he does not think he's gonna win when he has to block. Like he looks like he has just seen he's come home from his day of clowning and his family has been brutally murdered and there's like crime scene tape and just blood everywhere. And like that is not the face you should make every single time somebody throws a jab at you.
Wait. Save the actual clown makeup. If I remember correctly, in the Killing Joke, that's the Joker's origin story, isn't it? Like,
That his family was murdered?
no, it's that he like I think it starts off with like he fails his like stand-up routine or something like that, and then he comes out and he finds out that his pregnant wife is dead, and then 2 or 3 other things like go horribly wrong, and then he's horribly disfigured, and that's why like he's kind of like out to show that like everybody is one bad day away from being him. That's
Oh
Bonker.
yeah. I remember that Joker origin story. I didn't remember that it was from the Killing Joke. But yes. So Bonker is the Joker on Monday and his wife got murdered on Tuesday. Like that is essentially what we're seeing.
And now I don't know why I'm just like picturing some of like Heath Ledger Joker's lines coming out of Bonker's mouth, like that I'd watch.
See, but the whole point of this game is to be like kind of silly, you know, Looney Tunes style satire, and now we're straying right back into Christopher Nolan like super heavy territory. Like that would not be ClayFighter. That'd be a whole other thing.
That's true, but I mean, ClayFighter meets Mortal Kombat. Like, I mean, I'd throw 15 minutes at that.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but consider the tone you just described in this game engine, and while you're fighting Bonker, now instead of seeing the look of terror every time he blocks, you have to also see the look of terror paired with a horrible ultra compressed 16-bit. Want to know how I got these scars? Like super fast, like every, every time he blocks.
I don't want any of that. That sounds awful. My actual last note, because I did not have much in the way of audio, but I was I was like, we'll go for quality over quantity, unlike this game where they went for neither quality nor quantity. Was the one thing that immediately like brought me back to being like 8, 10, 12, however old I was when I played this game, was
some age.
yeah, somewhere between the age of 0 and 50, was bad Mr. Frosty saying what his victory audio, which is
I'm cool. I know it.
I'm bad. I'm cool. I know I'm cool. I think is the way is, or at least that's what I hear. That's what
I don't. We'll check it out and put it in the show notes.
Yeah, check the show notes. Now, and to be fair, the only reason why I'm not going to defend that interpretation at all is because I've just literally I can't unhear it because it's all I heard when I was 8. And like
yeah.
But yeah,
it's a wrong song there. It gets stuck in there forever.
Oh yeah, like the opening to Aladdin. Like I just recently in my 30s got those right. Like, I mean, yeah, no, that was wrong for quite some time.
Yeah, that is a weird thing about being a parent watching movies like old Disney movies now, like with my kids, and you are probably going through this same thing with your son. Is I'll be like, I'll hear something and like I'll be distracted. So I will hear the audio and my brain is processing it not through a nostalgia earpiece, which makes me hear it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like these two memories are like clashing in my brain where like childhood me is like, no, that's not what they say. They say this ridiculous thing. And then adult me is like, no, I just heard it. I know that that's not what they say. And childhood me is like, no, we've heard this hundreds and hundreds of times. And it's like,
See, like, so now I'm picturing like, you're just like doing the dishes and you hear it wrong and you kind of like snap up and furrow your brow for a second, and the camera like zooms into your brain, and it shows like a cold field, like a cold windswept field, and like childhood you with like the giant sword on his back and like the scarf, like no, what this says, and like the new like adult you being like, I'm sure I know what I heard, and like just draws the sword, and then like just like smash cuts out like, oh my god, that's not what it says.
Yeah, no, it feels like the opposite of how you would feel if you were awoken as like a secret CIA operative.
Nice.
It's like that, but in reverse, where like you thought you were living your best life ever, and then it's like my life has actually been a lie.
It reminds me of a Kyle Kinane bit where he just basically says, he assumes he's been activated as a super spy, and thus he assumes he speaks fluent Mandarin because he's in a Chinese restaurant. But then it becomes painfully clear that he only speaks remedial Spanish. So you're like, oh, I'm a super spy, I must be activated. And then you're just kind of like running around. You're like, yeah, no, I obviously know parkour. And then like people are like, why is he trying to jump off of his roof? But
oh God, his legs.
But honestly, that's all I've got for audio, is just that basically, like you said, the actual set pieces are, we've run into this in a number of games, so they're forgettable,
Yeah. Audio is dead to me now.
Yeah. And the rest is garbage.
So I do have a single note for controls, because controls and mechanics, like, they often go together very tightly, but sometimes we've had a good reason to call out controls specifically. Mm-hmm. And I have incredibly standard fighter fare. Like, I mean, because, and I mean that in a derogatory way, because there is no deeper layer. There is no third dimension to this chessboard. There is no joke you don't get. There's no pun or reference you're unaware of. Like, the controls are exactly what they are. There's no super moves. There's no finishing. Nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing. Punch, kick, block, jump. Like, there's a couple of special moves per character, and that is it. There's nothing to unlock. There's no upgrades. There's nothing.
No, there's nothing. There's literally nothing about this game to write home about. There are enough like special moves. I know for a fact that there's one, maybe two special moves per character, and that's it, man. I mean, like, and it's literally just enough so that way you could say like they exist, you know. But aside from that, and just the overall size of the character, which does slightly change their hitbox, there is just not a lot to this, man.
Nope. Which actually I thought was interesting, an interesting choice with N boss. And I feel like a lot of fighting games do this, where the last boss is like a giant scary monster of some kind. And in a game like this, what that really does is give the last boss a huge hitbox.
Yeah.
Like everything you do, every technique you throw has a pretty good chance of connecting because he's half the damn screen.
Yes, and actually, I thought that honestly, End Boss was far and away the easiest fight.
Yeah, not a challenge at all.
No, because and I mean, yes, we were playing it on easy, so maybe on like hard mode he goes like nuts. But his like thing is that oh well, he can use all of their special moves, I guess, or at least all of the projectile ones, and it's just kind of like, all right, neat. Those moves all suck though, like they're not effective when the character that's made to use them uses them. So it's just way more ineffective when you fight him. And also too, while I'm just on a roll of complaining, I also thought it was just like, if I remember correctly, you fight like the fact that they use the exact same backdrop for him as the the blob, right?
Blob, yeah.
Yeah, that bothered me, because
It feels lazy.
yeah, because it's just kind of like, oh, and so while so like the fact that they have repeat fights in their story mode is obnoxious to me. I mean, like it's just kind of like, okay, you know what, you built 6 characters out. You clearly made this for a 2-player experience. There's no need to have necessarily like a campaign mode, but obviously you want to have some kind of 1-player experience. So yeah, just line them all up in a row. I'll beat them all and we'll move on with life. But the fact he had to fight like Taffy twice and Bonkers twice, like it's just why?
And okay, so here's the comment I've been saving literally the entire show. This game feels lazy, and not lazy in like a we don't care about the quality of our product kind of way, not lazy in like a this is just a sloppy cash grab kind of way. It may have been those things, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is everything that was required for this game to exist, it just feels like they did the bare minimum. Like they crossed that item off their checklist and then they never like circled back to polish it or refine it or expand on it in any way. They were like, well, we need to have a roster of 8 characters. Do we have 8? Okay, done. Well, that means that the battle mode at most will be 7 fights if you don't fight yourself and 8 fights if you do the palette swap with yourself. And it's like, okay, that sounds boring. Okay, so we want at least 10 fights, so you fight 2 of the characters twice. And it's like, all you had to do was say you have to beat each person twice.
Right.
Like there you go. Because then it would be like, oh, Bonker recovered, and like so you're putting him down, and like while you were fighting him, like Helga recovered, and you have to go and like put her down for good. And then like when you finally beaten everybody twice, then end boss shows up. But to beat everybody once and then like 2 of them twice just feels like they had some minimum number of fights that the 1-player mode had to have, and the second they got to it, they were just like, ship it.
Yep. Or like even if for like the 2 that you revisit, if they did a really intense palette swap on it, like then like you said, like it could be like, oh, even if it is
zombie taffy.
Yeah, or like like End Boss brought them back to life, which would actually give you some kind of a narrative through line, and then like kind of be like, oh, End Boss is evil because like I'm trying to win and be king of the circus, and he's like now throwing honest to God zombies in my way, like whatever. I mean, there's a million different clever ways to handle this, but I agree with you completely. Where basically they were just kind of like, do we have 8 fighters? Yes. It's like, well, we want to have 10 fights. It's like, okay, well, considering how completely banal all of the fight and like desaturated all of these fighters are, like, yes, the character models are interesting, but that's where it ends. Like you said, it's got weak punch, moderate punch, strong punch. That's it. I mean, like, so for the cost of animating those additional things to just give the game a little bit more oomph would, be nice. I mean, like, this game would be a lot less offensive, I think, or a lot less just drab if there were like if there was something more to it, like more characters, like if it was something where it was more like Smash Brothers, where you like take away the fact that Smash Brothers actually has some very intensive mechanics. But even if you just had like that many character models and all of them behaved kind of similarly, it might at least make the game somewhat interesting. But it's just, all you got is the 8 characters. They all do basically the exact same thing. In fact,
Yes.
I would rather have more characters and fewer set pieces. You know?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because it's like even if every background was just a circus tent, like you're in a field outside of the circus tent,
Yeah.
like if the fights themselves were more engaging and more interesting, because I mean I'm not good at these kinds of games, like I'm not terrible at them, but they're far and away not like my thing. And I was able to win a couple fights on hard without putting in any substantial effort to like getting good at the game, because it's like, you know what it is? Like you've played brawlers, right? Like uh God, I'm drawing a blank. Like Golden Axe, but like a more modern brawler.
Oh yeah.
This feels like a fighting game, but with like brawler mechanics, where it's like keep pushing, strong punch until they stop getting up. Like
Yep.
you don't really have to. Not only do you not have any special techniques to master, but they don't have any special techniques to throw at you, so you don't have to get good at defending against them. It's just like the creators of the game are doing the bare minimum, and the character you're fighting is doing the bare minimum, and you can do the bare minimum to beat them. Like it's just, and like I thought about putting these into their respective sections, but I kind of lumped them all together at the end, which is like some of the weirdly budget things that I noticed, like the MVP that they never went back to polish. Everybody has one win-loss animation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing as Bad Mr. Frosty and you have a string of successes like I did on my first playthrough on easy, like just I'm bad, I'm cool, I know it, whatever he says, like just freaking 16 times in a row, just like over and over and over and over and over. And then like if you're trying to play on hard and you're like being challenged, like you have the same death animation every single time. And if you keep getting by the same person, you have to see their same single win animation every single time. Like, and then the announcer has a single set of dialogue. Like there's every round starts with the exact same recording. Every round ends with the exact same recording. Like it's like, well, we have to have an announcer at the beginning of the match, so we're going to record a single line of dialogue, and then we're just going to play it however many matches you play. If you play 100 matches, you're going to hear it 100 times.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think that you hit something, which is that in certainly in fighting games, so like in Mario or in platformers or whatever, you know, you can get away with, well, no, actually I think so. Okay. Novelty or seeking the unique, right? Like that's kind of what a lot of these, especially in fighting games, you want, right? Because basically there is no like different stages, you know, or power-ups generally or things like that, right? Like it's literally you are given almost in a scientific way continual side by side comparisons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, right? Like you're just running the same experiment over and over and over again. So what you need is things that are unique. And I mean, like let's juxtapose this with like Mortal Kombat, right? Like people, they all have their like 3 or 4 unique special moves. They have their finishing moves. They all kind of like, even though they all kind of move in the same way, like some of them like kick a little bit differently and like punch a little bit differently. And so especially in later games, like the skill ceiling is incredibly high, right? You know, like how high you can push your own personal skill before you cap out on the game. This has none of that. Like and the worst thing is that it sells itself on the feeling of uniqueness, you know?
Yes.
Because unlike Mortal Kombat, where you've got like 4 palette swaps for the exact same character, those characters are more unique than these, you know? Reptile is more unique to Scorpion than Bad Mr. Frosty is to Taffy, you know? And that's depressing because realistically, and that's part of, I think part of the thing that I'm like trying to work through as we're talking, but like, is that, is that like this game, everything about this game sells itself on its novelty and nothing about it is novel. It is the most desaturated, banal lack of a game that I think we've played so far. And I think that you aptly summed it up with your quote, which was
Oh no, please.
Oh, like you says, you don't hate this game, you nothing it. It's
I
just
nothing it.
yeah, like you nothing this game. Like it just you can't. It's kind of like the opposite of love isn't hate; it's indifference.
Yes, exactly. And here you go. Here's the story I can convey to you to explain not just how of an experience I was having, but that I was actually radiating my lack of an experience into the room around me. Because I'm sitting here, I'm playing the game. I also have I type my notes, so I have a notes document open on my laptop, and I'm typing my notes, and Susan is sitting nearby crafting, and she was like, "You've had that thing paused for an awful long time," and I was like, "Oh well, I was just taking some notes," and then like actually looked at my computer, and I had done like 12 other things like like I checked my email, like there was a thing with my bank that I had to mess with, like there were just like 20 other little tasks, and like every time I paused the game to take a note I would just be like, oh well, while I'm here I'll check Twitter. Oh, while I'm here I'll go and see if my calendar is in order for the next week, like. And she actually, I think what she literally said was, "You are finding any excuse to not play this game." And I was like, I just don't want to. Like, I don't even want to hate play it. Like with Zelda 2, I know you love that game. And I don't want to crap on something you love.
Right.
But I did not enjoy that game. And there were a few times
you.
there were a few times like while I was playing it where I was like, no, I'm going to beat you. What should be a trivial exercise. Like, no, I'm going to cross this bridge. I'm going to beat this monster. I'm going to solve this puzzle, like whatever it was. But it was like not out of a desire to succeed. It was out of hate for the world of Zelda 2. Whereas like with ClayFighter, they're like, hey man, you want to be king of the circus. And I'm like, no, I really don't. It's like, oh, you're just gonna let this other guy be king of the circus? I don't even care if there is a circus. Like, it's not that I don't care who the king is. It's that all of you could just stop existing.
Yeah.
And that I almost feel bad ripping this hard on something that people like put time and effort and money and resources into. But God, it's nothing. It's so nothing.
To be fair, I think that they'll live through us chiding their 15 minutes of effort, $5. But I mean, like, and I kind of had a similar thing, and this leads into one of my, because unfortunately I felt a little guilty because I just didn't have amazing notes for this, because it's just there's nothing to grip onto. It is the void, like there's nothing there.
No, it's purgatory.
Yeah. So like I normally, when I walk out, because I play the games in my study, so like when I walk out, I'm normally either like, oh man, I'm really enjoying playing this game, it does this well, it does this well, it does this thing, and kind of give Megan like a primer for the episode that she's then going to have to go listen to. So I'm sure she's just kind of like, oh good, I get to hear it twice. Or like I'll come out just being like and I do that thing that we both do, which is I'm like, this game is frustrating and unfair, and I'm going to tell you why. Like
sit down. It is lecture time.
Yeah, because that's like, instead of, because we don't do like the like controlling the screen rage quit generally, like we do the like, no, I'm going to systematically tell you why this game is flawed, and it's not me, it is the game, and it's very important. And like so. I didn't do either of those things. I just like walked out and just started making myself some coffee. And Megan's like, "Are you done playing for the evening?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like,
I mean,
oh.
Several times I checked bank statements versus playing this game. So
you refiled your taxes, like,
like, oh man, this is off by a few cents, and not in the government's favor, in our favor. And I need those 3 pennies.
So, and actually, one of my notes was that I realized I was actually living in continual fear of hitting a skill wall in this game, because I knew I just didn't have the fire in me to even try to scale it. Like to use your example of Legend of Zelda 2, where like I was just kind of like no, I just kept hurling myself at the brick wall, because I was like, I swear to God, I will knock this wall down. But this one I was just kind of like, if I stumble I'm just never gonna get back up. I'm just gonna be like, I live here now, and then just wait for the grass to grow around me.
So, so I do have one potentially redeeming thing in this game to discuss, and this may actually be present in other fighting games, but I can't think of one. So here we go. I think it is genuinely an interesting take on the difficulty scale to have a separate setting for game speed.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I thought that was.
Did you play with
intriguing.
it?
No, I didn't. I didn't. No, I just.
So I had to see what both of the extremes looked like, and here's where this compliment is going to become incredibly hollow. I think that the mechanic of game speed separate from difficulty, because difficulty is how well your opponent fights.
Right.
Game speed is how quickly, literally, the animations move.
Both
so it's
you
not how
and them.
Yes, exactly. So it's not just how quickly, they respond. That would be difficulty. It's actually literally the animation. Well, that's clever and all, but they chose to do that at a time in history when it's not like they were drowning in extra animation frames. It's not like, we can just throw away 10 animation frames per second and no one will even know. The difference, because there's 9 delineations, and the difference between game speed 1 is like, it's like trying to stream a YouTube video in 4K to like a Nokia candy bar phone from the 90s. Like it's horrible. It's so choppy and ugly and hideous, and like you feel like your console's broken or that your TV's broken. Like it's ugly. You don't have animation frames to throw away. And then when you play it at like 7 or 8, you're like, oh, okay, like it's looking pretty much like I expect. And then on 9, it's like smooth and beautiful and everything's fine. But I was like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, I really like this mechanic. I really like the idea of saying like, hey, it's not just about how good of a fighter your opponent is. Maybe you just need to take things slower. And there's an entire argument to be made for like accessibility. Like maybe being able to slow the game down would make this playable by someone who has like motor function problems or cognitive processing issues where they just can't process the information as fast. And that would make this game playable for them in a way that a high action fighting game typically is not accessible to them. And I have no problem with any of that. I think that's tremendous. And maybe that's why they included this mechanic. But the application of it to the implementation of just throwing away animation frames is so janky that it actually seems counter to the goal of making the game easier to digest, because the animations are just flashing constantly because you're dropping frames.
Right. And I think that you're right. I think that I think that it's very, very fascinating. I'm intrigued as to why that has. I haven't seen that in any other fighting games, and maybe it exists. Like you said, we don't play a lot of modern fighters, but I think it's definitely an interesting concept. And I think that it, like everything else in this game, is just a product of getting like 80% of the way done and then stopping, just not caring anymore. It's just like, oh, what if we made speed and difficulty on like 2 different axes? It's like, that's a very interesting, and that maybe that's something that could like set this game apart a little bit, like even though we don't have like a whole lot of like special moves, we could do this other thing. It's like, yeah, okay, so you put the feature in. Well, kind of, it looks really awful and doesn't really do much, and it's kind of a huge problem. It's like, yeah, okay, ship it. And it's just like,
yeah,
come on,
because that is as wacky and over the top as the characters want to believe that they are. A funny version of Elvis is not that novel.
No.
A Gumby parody is not that novel. And it's not that everything has to be new and original, but the game, as you said, it wants so bad for you to think that it is novel and clever and satirical and haha, look how antithetical we are to the ultra violence in Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and those kind of games. But then this one like truly novel idea that I really don't think I've ever seen. I've seen game speed, but it's usually the weird stand-in for difficulty.
Right.
So to actually have those two things be broken out, and then, I mean, I don't know how else you would do this, like other than just literally dropping animation frames and slowing the animation down. But I don't know. Like the implementation just really breaks it for me. Like I hope it made the game accessible to some poor child who would otherwise have never been able to play a fighting game, and that's a great story. But for someone who just wants to play the game slowed down and doesn't have to play the game slowed down, they would probably get sick of the flashing janky animation.
Yeah, no, everything about this game is very similar to like, if you assume Mortal Kombat is like the, you know, 30-year-old like game developer, like work like artist and all sorts of stuff. This is like their 8-year-old child's attempt at a game where it's just like everything's really zany and like there's a bunch of like good, interesting, novel, new stuff in there. And it's all half formed, totally like kind of broken and doesn't really follow through in anything, So you're just kind of like, so not to, lead too hard, but Lions, how did it hold up?
Well, so we didn't actually at the top of the show talk about like what our nostalgia goggles for this was, which I want to do real quick as this kind of closing segment because I think it is more directly relevant than it's been on a lot of other games. What are your nostalgia goggles for this game?
My nostalgia goggle, this is one I had at my dad's house, and I remember playing it like regularly and enjoying it. And that's kind of it though. It's all kind of like just like the game itself, just kind of grayed over. And like I couldn't tell you any details other than like the one detail that stands out just so crisp in my mind is the blob special move of turning into a buzzsaw. And like I remembered that. And everything else is just a wash.
Yeah. So I'm almost positive that the only place I ever played this was at my friend's house across the street. And it's a 2-player game, so I can't imagine we ever sat there and stared at each other while we played the single player campaign.
Sure.
So I think all of my feelings about this game are, yeah, if you play this with your friend while you're eating Doritos directly out of the bag on summer vacation, then yeah, this could be a fun romp. But it's because it gives you and your friend something to do, not because the game itself is particularly engaging or interesting. But if you and your friend are a similar skill level, then you're just, like you said, you're just running that same experiment over and over and over, right?
Yeah.
So that's a just like people, two friends will like play a million games of chess or a million games of poker. It's like the game itself isn't changing, getting any harder, or getting any newer or anything, but it's like it's just fun to have this game for two people to interact with. And this is like a weird, like I would say if you have nostalgia goggles for this game, still don't play it alone. Yeah. like if you have strong positive feelings for this game, not only do you need nostalgia goggles, but you need a buddy with nostalgia goggles, and the two of you need to try and replay it, because the solo experience, even having pretty fond memories of playing this game as a kid, sucked so bad even through nostalgia goggles.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. To me, like I said, like it was just as far as like, because normally for the nostalgia goggles, I try to think like, well, if I'm gonna say it doesn't have nostalgia goggles, like then I'd have to be able to recommend it to somebody. The only thing that I would think offhand to recommend this for is it's like, well, it does have unique character models, but that's like saying, like, hey, look, this animation has cool colors in it. It's like, yeah, of course it does, So honestly, I just like like I said, like by virtue of playing it, like colors were less bright and like I'm sure I was just, like it's like being in like Hades and, you just slowly taking that wisdom damage until you just become a petitioner of the plane. And honestly, I thought about it and I went and looked it up because I didn't have it offhand, but because I was like, there's some quote that a Bible verse that I was like, just like kicking around. And the reason why I remembered it was because it was part of Genesis, which we had to read in high school, which was the earth.
Wait. You had to read a section of the Bible as high school? You did not go to a Catholic or Christian school, did you?
No, it was part of AP. which is how they got away with it. But yeah, for AP English senior year, they had us read Genesis, and for good reason though, because a lot of the works that we were reading referenced the Bible, specifically had references to Genesis. So like if you wanted to understand a lot of the literature in the time period that we were reading, you needed to be familiar with the Bible. So
no, that checks out. I'm just surprised that there weren't like a bunch of angry parents
Right?
like, you're making my kid read what?
Right. No, but I mean, that's the thing that's why I'm just kind of like, no, that's the correct reason to teach the Bible in school, is to say that, not like, it'd be like, oh, you have to believe it. But it's like, no, but there is a tremendous amount of literature that happened around this time that the Bible heavily influenced, which is why it is perfectly reasonable to teach the Bible as a literary influence in English class. Not so much in science, but in English class.
Less so in science.
A little bit less,
But sorry, I interrupted your story.
So basically, like, I was just like kicking it around because I was like, nah, something, it sounds familiar. And basically the quote was, the earth was flat without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, which is the way that the earth looked before God created the heavens and the earth. That is what staring into this game is like.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black, and you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone, there's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again